to our live coverage of the GT Cup coverage here at Brands Hatch. Now, we still have the endurance race to come. 50 minutes, it's with the pit stop. And I'm sure that Graham Tilley is really hoping for the same result that he had earlier in the sprint race. A fantastic and very much deserved win for him. Here's a reminder of what happened with our highlights and our commentator, Mark Werrell.
The sprint race earlier on today saw Graham Tilley and Seamus Jennings at the wheel of the Porsche line up on the front row of the grid, and when the lights went out, the pair were briefly side by side up towards Paddock Hill Bend, but Graham Tilley was able to take the early lead of the race at the wheel of the Nissan. Further down through the order, there were good battles going on. Harry Yardley-Rose fighting away with the championship-winning McLaren in the hands of John Whitehouse from last year. Harry looking to try and grab the place, saw the opportunity as he went down in towards Graham Hill Bend and was able to carve the Ginetta through an upper position. John Whitehouse running wide allowed Patrick Collins in the sister car to do exactly the same. Both Ginettas from Team Hard gaining places. There was a good fight going on for second place in Group GT8. James Guess at the wheel of the Ginetta trying to fend off the Mercedes of Morgan Tilbrook, whilst Craig Wilkins had been leading that category. He suffered an ABS failure heading up towards Druids and put the car in the gravel trap. Out of the race, that also brought out the safety car. There were problems also, clutch failure for the GCAT Racing Porsche in the hands of Seamus Jennings. He was pushed out of harm's way by the marshals. The race got back underway with Graham Tilley initially coming under pressure from the Scott Sport Group GTC leading Lamborghini in the hands of Jim Geddy, but he was having his own little fight for the lead of the group, trying to keep at bay the Ferrari of John Dillon. Morgan Tilbrook came into the pit lane with problems for the brand new Mercedes, and out on track, James Guest continued to lead Group GT8 but was coming under pressure from cars behind, not least of which Patrick Collins at the wheel of the Group GTA Ginetta. As they came up towards Surtees, Harry Yardley-Rose tried to get up the inside of his teammate Patrick Collins. There was contact between the two Team Hard Ginettas, both having had spins and half spins. They were both continuing the race, but time was lost. For Graham Tilley, though, disappointment in yesterday's sprint race. It was a win in today's. He claimed his debut win of the 2020 season.
Well, that was certainly an eventful first race of the day. You can see now the cars are heading out of the garages and on to the track for our final race of the day. This is where it gets really, really noisy. There we go. A few more to go and then we will be underway. So remember, you can watch us live either on Facebook or on YouTube and keep abreast of everything on all the social media channels as well. That's it. I think we've got one more car going out. Yes, we do. The final car heading out onto the track, which is the GTO number 138. That's it. The cars are out. The race will be getting underway shortly. So I will hand you over to your commentator for this race. Once again, Mr. Mark Werrell.
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, wonderful to see the cars heading out onto circuit for their final race of the weekend. 2 races yesterday, 2 races today, 4 races over the course of a busy weekend, and that's without considering the free practice sessions and the qualification sessions. You get a lot of track time, as we heard in one of the interviews earlier on with the likes of Marcus Clutton, who is joining Morgan Tilbrook in the car this weekend. Lots and lots of track time available for you in the GT Cup Championships. The cars heading round onto the grid. Remember, it's not the final race weekend either for the GT Cup Championship. We've got the Donington Park finale that is coming up in just 2 weeks' time. The 24th and 25th of October is where we'll head towards Donington Park, and at the end of that weekend we will have crowned our, we don't say class, it's group, we will have crowned our group champions in each of the categories and crowned our overall champion as well in what has been a thoroughly enjoyable 2020 GT Cup Championship. So we'll wait for the cars to line up on the grid. You can see they're still sort of weaving from side to side, even on this outlap in reality, just to try and build a little bit of tyre temperature, knowing full well that some of that will dissipate and the tyres will cool off a bit whilst they sit there on the grid. But anything you can do that puts you in good position for the start of the race is a very sensible thing to do. Now remember, it is the pit stop race, and therefore we have driver changes that we need to consider. We also have success seconds that we need to consider as well, meaning that some cars, depending on how they've got on in the previous pit stop races, they will have to spend longer in the pit lane than other cars. The standard period that cars have to remain stationary is 60 seconds. We also know that it takes 17 seconds from braking the beam at pit lane in to braking it on pit lane out. 17 seconds if you travel at the regulatory speed limit down the pit lane as well. So that's 77 seconds in theory from a car braking the beam pit lane in to braking the beam pit lane out. That's for the cars that are on scratch. If anybody does it any quicker than that, then it's a very simple calculation. They've either sped in the pit lane or they've not stopped for the minimum of 60 seconds. And either one of those scenarios would bring a penalty. But other cars have to stop for longer periods because of the success seconds that have been applied to them. If you are new to the championship, you pick sort of an average of the success seconds up. If you win your group in the previous pit stop race, it's a 20-second penalty. If you're second, it's a 15-second penalty. If you are third, it's a 10-second penalty. So that's how they are all worked out. Let's guide you through the grid then as the cars begin to line up. Just about to line up on pole position is the number 4 Nissan. Just pulling past its point. It will have to sort of reverse up a little bit here, but number 4, Graham Tilley behind the wheel of that car to start. The professional drivers cannot start the race. They take over for part 2. So number 4, Graham Tilley on pole position, and alongside we should have had the GCAT Racing Porsche, but we do know that that car, spoke to Seamus Jennings after the race, it suffered a clutch failure. Now, they weren't sure. He didn't think, he said the car did judder a bit more as they came off the start-finish line for the start of the sprint race. He didn't think it was a mechanical issue with the clutch. He thought it was electronic related, but the GCAT team have been looking into that one, but for the moment, it doesn't look as though that car is there on the outside of the front row of the grid. So Graham Tilley pole position, 15 extra seconds to spend in the pit lane, gap alongside where we should have had the GCAT Racing Porsche. Row 2 of the grid is Jim Geddy at the wheel of the Scott Sport Lamborghini Huracan, the number 77 car. The 2014 champion has an extra 15 seconds to spend in the pits, and alongside him is the number 61 Ferrari, the blue car, with the white and the Dalo green flashes to it in the hands of John Dillon. That has an extra 20 seconds to spend in the pit lane. Row 3 of the grid is the pink and light green Team Hard Porsche, which is Sam Randon on board. That has an extra 20 seconds to spend in the pit lane. And for company, it's the silver and light green Marcos Mantis, which Jensen Lund starts. That has an extra 10 seconds to spend in the pit lane. Row 4 of the grid is number 30, which is Alan Purbrick at the wheel of the Seika. That has no additional time penalties to worry about. Alongside it is the black and yellow Ginetta Make It Happen Racing. Stephen Walton starts. That has an extra 15 seconds. Row 5 of the grid, Triple M Motorsport, Ian Duggan with his Ginetta. No pit lane penalty to worry about for him. Alongside is the silver BMW 1 Series Saxon Motorsport, Tom Barrow, an extra 15 success seconds in the pit lane. The 6th row of the grid is the second of the 2 silver and light green Marcos Mantis cars. Charlotte Gilbert will start. No additional time penalties to worry about. And alongside is, as we heard from Michelle, almost the last of the cars that came out of the pit lane, Sam Allpass at the wheel of his Jeff Steele Racing prepared BMW, an extra 20 seconds to spend in the pit lane. The 7th row of the grid, it's the Team Hard Ginetta, number 20 in the hands of Josh Jackson, as off they head on their final formation lap, has an extra 20 seconds to spend in the pit lane. And alongside, ABS failure has been sorted from the race earlier on. The car is out there. Craig Wilkins, as a result of his performance yesterday, no additional success seconds for the Scott Sports Ginetta driver to worry about. Row 8 of the grid is Morgan Tilbrook at the wheel of the Mercedes, an extra 20 success seconds for the Enduro Motorsport Mercedes, and alongside are the reigning champions. John Whitehouse will start the JMH Automotive McLaren. That car has an extra 15 seconds to spend in the pit lane. Row 9 of the grid, Feathers Motorsport, James Guess, an extra 10 seconds alongside the number 17 Team Hard Ginetta of Russ Lindsay. No additional seconds for them to worry about. The penultimate row of the grid sees number 34 Harry Yardley Rose at the wheel of the Team Hard Ginetta. No success seconds to worry about for him, and neither has the car alongside the Whitebridge Motorsport Aston Martin of former champion, 2018 champion Chris Murphy. And then the 11th and final row of the grid on their own, it's the Century Motorsport Ginetta that will be started by Alex Stevenson. The quick and rather rapid pro driver James Kellett will take over. That has an extra 10 seconds to spend in the pit lane. Now the pit window opens between the 24th and 35th minute of the races, and that means that once we have clicked past that 24th minute, then the pit window opens. It closes at the 35th minute. In the pit lane, by the look of things, has come Jim Geddy at the wheel of the Lamborghini. So there is Glyn at the front of it, and let's just have a quick look round. Driver's door opens. Glyn chatting to Father Jim, and the car's going up onto the air jacks, which means that clearly there's some sort of issue that they are concerned about. Drivers maybe just reporting a vibration or something. It's the right-hand side of the car that they're looking at, and off is coming one of the Pirelli tyres. I do wonder whether there might be concern over whether there was either an issue with the tyre or possibly a slow puncture or something not quite right. So that car is going to have to start from the pit lane when it should have been starting in the hands of the former champion, the 2014 champion, from the second row of the grid. So through the left-hander at what is Stirling's, they will thread their way, and the lights are out on the safety car. We're about to go racing for the final time this weekend in the GT Cup Championship. Graham Tilley, fresh from a win in the sprint race earlier on, has got the front row of the grid all to his own as a result of the Seamus Jennings GCAT Racing Porsche not being present, so he should be able to lead the charge quite comfortably up towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. And then we've got a gap on the second row of the grid, of course, where the Lamborghini is now missing. So 50 minutes on the clock, red lights go out, we're away and racing up towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time, and it is going to be indeed Graham Tilley that is going to lead the pack through Paddock Hill Bend for the first time, and up to second place has come Sam Randon, who has got the Group GTB Porsche ahead of John Dillon's car. Can he hang on to it as they head in towards the braking area for Druids for the first time? Yes, just about by the look of things. The Porsche still ahead of the Ferrari. The Seika of Alan Purbrick going well as well at the wheel of that little dark blue car. He's got the Saxon Motorsport car of Tom Barrow right behind him. Tom Barrow up towards the left-hander at Surtees. Nissan leads, Porsche leads, Ferrari leads, Marcos, Seika, then BMW and Ginetta. So what's that, 7 different marks I think now represented inside the top 7, such as the variety in the GT Cup Championship. We might have a change for second here. Yeah, the extra power of the Group GTC Ferrari tells over the Group GTB Porsche, and John Dillon is able to go through and take up second place in the race. Sam Randon dropping to third, but it doesn't affect the group position or the championship points that the Porsche will get. So through Dingledell up towards the right-hander at what is Sheen Curve. The Marcos Mantis sitting there in 4th position, Jensen Lunn having started that car. Alan Purbrick's Seika is the next of the runners. You can see further down through the order the hordes of Ginettas, some of which run in Group GTA, others of which run in Group GTH. We'll pick up on the various group leaders as the race wears on, because that's what's important to try and work out where our overall champion potentially might come from over the course of the 2020 season. Craig Wilkins going well. He is sitting right behind the car of Ian Duggan. So the number 31 Ginetta under pressure from the Group GTH Ginetta, and I think that's Craig Wilkins that'll be leading Group GTH at this stage. Yes, it is, yeah. Had ABS failure at this part of the circuit in the race earlier on, but the red Ginetta with the Dayglow flashes is going beautifully well now. The Scott Sport team have worked hard to repair that car. He leads Group GTH, but behind him is the McLaren, which runs second in Group GTH, and then the next of the cars behind that is going to be James Guess in the white and blue Ginetta, which is third in Group GTH. So again, as we've seen so many times, Group GTH is serving up a great battle between all of these cars, which are fully compliant with the GT4 regulations. There is number 82 James Guess, got the Marcos Mantis right behind him. That will be the car of Charlotte Gilbert, but that is in a different group. The extra power of Sam Allpass's BMW tells, and he rockets his way through and past Stephen Walton as they head up towards Hawthorns. That means that now Stephen Walton is up into 7th position. It's Stephen Walton's down into 8th position. Sam Allpass is up into 7th. And as they now start to thunder their way through Dingledell and up towards the right-hander at Sheen Curve, it looks as though Sam Allpass is pulling away at the wheel of that BMW in his newly acquired 7th position. There goes number 66 Morgan Tilbrook. That car absolutely brand new this weekend. It was delivered at 8:30 on Friday morning, and it's gone well over the course of this weekend for Morgan and Marcus Clutton, who he shares the cars with. So through and over the start-finish line. This is potentially for the lead of Group GTH here, by the look of things. Yeah, that is the red Ginetta of Craig Wilkins, under pressure from the McLaren that sits behind, and James Guess is also in the background of the shot as well. For Craig Wilkins, though, he is bottled up behind Ian Duggan's number 31 car, and Ian Duggan is doing battle with the car ahead, which is Stephen Walton, and that will be the lead battling Group GTA. So 2 Ginettas coming towards us now, fighting over first and second in Group GTA. The third Ginetta, the number 80 car, leading Group GTH, but only just from the McLaren and the next of the Ginettas. So all inter-class battles, all rather closely matched as well, the driver and the car combinations. And what are beautifully dry conditions again now here at Brands Hatch. We had rain in the very early stages of this equivalent race yesterday, where the heavens opened. Marcus Mantis, number 99 of Charlotte Gilbert, running in 13th position at the moment. You can see just how tight it is. So what we've got here is 8th, 9th, 10th, then a gap, 11th, 12th, 13th and 14th places, all very much together here in towards the braking area for Sheen Curve. You can see them utilising all of the curb as they thread their way through the right-hander and up towards the next of the left-handers. Charlotte Gilbert under pressure from the Mercedes of Morgan Tilbrook. Morgan Tilbrook has got right behind him then the next of the cars, which is going to be the number 67 car of Josh Jackson. That's the championship leading car, I think, still at this stage, even after the sprint race earlier on. Over the start-finish line, Craig Wilkins still leading Group GTH at the wheel of the number 80 Ginetta, still with the champions from last year, right behind him at the wheel of their McLaren. Now ideally what Craig Wilkins would like to do is get that number 80 car that he's driving through and ahead of Ian Duggan's machine that sits ahead. But Ian Duggan won't want that to happen because he won't want to lose touch with the black car that sits ahead of him, which is Stephen Walton. Stephen Walton leads Group GTA. So here's our Group GTA leader now, under pressure for the lead of the group. Then the top three in Group GTH all queuing up. Charlotte Gilbert being kept very busy indeed by Morgan Tilbrook that sits behind. And all of this whilst Graham Tilley out front leads the race. Now this could be a change for the lead of the group here. The McLaren in the hands of John Whitehouse got the run on Craig Wilkins and was able to slot his way through, so the McLaren takes the place away and now picks up the lead of the group. Craig Wilkins drops to second and is now coming under pressure from James Guess, who's trying to squeeze his way through. So McLaren from Ginetta first, second and third in Group GTH. Fourth in Group GTH is that Mercedes at this stage, which is Morgan Tilbrook, going well, the former Fun Cup racer, and has been working hard with Marcus Clutton to develop this car and get some setup on it over the course of this weekend, whilst learning the car at the same time. So through the right-hander at the end of the lap, this is Clearways and Clark Curve, 8th, 9th and 10th, and now it looks as though sliding his way through goes John Whitehouse, and I think should just be able to grab the place yet. Through and ahead of Ian Duggan he goes. So that is for pure race position, that is not for group position. Craig Wilkins is going to now try and squeeze his way through and past Ian Duggan as well, but that didn't quite work. So the good thing for the McLaren now is that he's got another car between himself and the car that lies second in Group GTH. That's equally a good thing also for the car that's at the front of the queue, the black car with its yellow flashes, the Ginetta of Stephen Walton, because he still leads Group GTA, and now he has got one car between himself and the car that lies second in Group GTA. So that's worked well for both the Ginetta at the front of the pack and for the McLaren that sits behind it. They both continue to lead their respective groups. And now John Whitehouse is now looking to try and get past the Group GTA leader. Yep, so change of position there, another place gained for the McLaren, which in a straight line really seems to have the legs at this stage. So leading the class now, and now with a few cars between himself and the second car in Group GTH, which caters for all of those cars that comply with GT4 specification. Charlotte Gilbert has also been able to unpick the door on Ian Duggan. But this is a great little fight that's going on. So John Whitehouse now up into, it'll be 8th position, won't it, at the end of this lap. Best of the fight is going to be for 2nd, 3rd and 4th in Group GTH at this stage, which is the red Ginetta of Craig Wilkins that will just be at the back of the shot, under pressure from James Guess, and then the silver Mercedes as well, which is going to be Morgan Tilbrook. So over the start-finish line now go. Watch out for the number 80 car. Second in the group, James Guess has the inside line and squeezes his way through and takes second place away in Group GTH. So place gained for James Guess. That now puts him up to 12th position in the race, but second in the group. Craig Wilkins losing position, drops to 3rd in the group and can't afford to let the silver Mercedes through either, because that would be another change for the group as well. Morgan Tilbrook at the wheel of that Group GTH Mercedes, sitting 4th in Group GTH. But what a great fight this has been. Might be sort of down towards the tail end of the top 10, but there is nothing to choose between the performance of all of these cars and their respective drivers that are behind the wheel in the early stages of this one. So John Whitehouse comes through, chased by Charlotte Gilbert. James Guest looking to try and squeeze his way through. That's very tight indeed, and just makes himself big enough to prevent Stephen Walton from being able to grab the position. Now Stephen Walton's coming under pressure from Ian Duggan, and that's going to lose him the lead of Group GTA. He was pushed offline as he had to let James Guest through, and now that means the number 31 car of Ian Duggan takes up the lead of Group GTA. As trying to fight back is Stephen Walton, but he's been unpicked by Morgan Tilbrook as well at the wheel of the number 66 Group GTH Mercedes. So the number 212 car losing a couple of places, but more importantly, to one of them, he lost the lead of the group, the lead of the clash, you could argue. Good overtake there for number 99, which is Charlotte Gilbert, gaining the position over John Whitehouse at the wheel of the McLaren. So that's the number 99 Marcos now up to 8th position overall, 5th in Group GTB that will be. The pit window opens in about another 13 minutes time, so there's still plenty of squabbling to be had before we start to see any of the cars dive for the pit lane. And what we have still got is this great big train of cars. Morgan Tilbrook in 11th position with a train of cars that sit behind, and that car there has gone off the boil a little bit over the course of the last few laps. Number 80 Craig Wilkins does make me wonder as to whether maybe they've disconnected the ABS on the car. Craig did say, you know, the first stage of the ABS it seemed to sort of work, and the second stage it was there. It's the final stage where the ABS failed, and it just meant that as he downshifted there wasn't enough automatic blip on the electronics of the car, and it locked the rear wheels, and that was what put him off in the race earlier on. So maybe Scott Sport have tried to fix it, realised that perhaps they can't fully fix it, and instead of just disconnected the whole system, and maybe with a lack of ABS, that might be possibly why Craig Wilkins is now struggling a little bit and dropping down through the order. Great little fight going on for 4th, 5th and 6th place. Jensen Lunn is under enormous pressure from the Saker of Alan Purbrick, and with Tom Barrow there as well. And this is a really important battle because this is for 2nd, 3rd and 4th place in Group GTB. So 3 cars all together. The Group GTB leader is Sam Randon at the wheel of the Porsche, Team Hard Porsche, who is safely up the road a few seconds from these guys. But for Jensen Lunn and Alan Purbrick and Tom Barrow, again, they are having a great little fight. The thundering noise of the Marcos Mantis, the unique sound of that Subaru engine Saker, and then the big grumble and thunder of that BMW 1 Series that Saxon Motorsport have developed over the course of the last few years in the hands of Tom Barrow. 3 entirely different shaped cars, very easy to spot them all. The rather small and diminutive stance of the Saker, the slightly bolder and butchier stance of the Marcos, and the big old saloon car, which doesn't look as though it's going to be half as quick as them, but the technical work that Butte Motorsport put into equalise the performance of the cars, working beautifully as Alan Purbrick dives up the inside, and I think it's going to take the place away there. Yeah, takes the place away from Jensen Lunn. So place lost for the Top Cats Racing Marcos Mantis, and now Tom Barrow is trying to squeeze his way through. Oh, thought he might be able to do it there, but couldn't quite. So Marcos just losing 1 place. That now drops that car down to what will be 5th position overall in the race, and it will now also sit 3rd in Group GTB rather than 2nd as it was a few corners ago. So Graham Tilley safely still leading the race, and by quite a large margin now, 12 seconds up the road from John Dillon. But of course they are in separate groups. Group GT3 car leads, Group GTC car 2nd, the leading Group GTB cars there in 3rd place. Sam Allpass leads Group GTO in 7th position. Group GTH is being led by the champions from last year, which is John Whitehouse behind the wheel of the McLaren currently. As for our Group GTA leader, that is down in 12th position now, which is Ian Duggan, the number 31 Ginetta. So there goes Graham Tilley, up towards a conclusion of what will be lap number 9 before too much longer. Will Tregurtha, former British GT champion in the GT4 category, scheduled to take over that car. Will was very much at the sharp end of Ginetta Juniors as well when he competed in that, and then moved straight out of Ginetta Juniors up to the British GT Championship, and it was his main rival actually from Ginetta Juniors that he was partnered up with in British GT, that being Stuart Middleton. And on their first ever season in the British GT Championship. They lifted the championship crown, so Will, used to sports car racing, has been working with Graham Tilley throughout the course of this season. We haven't seen Will with Graham at every single round because such has been the woes for the Nissan over the course of the season, which finally came good with that win earlier on. Will took the opportunity to race with another one of our competitors that's not out this weekend, David Frankland. There's the second place car, so that is John Dillon. He leads Group GTC. That car did take a win in the pit stop race yesterday, where the decision was made to bring that car into the pit lane on the very first lap that the rain started to fall and swap it onto the wets, and that was the right choice and ultimately had a pivotal role to play. Phil Quaife is scheduled to take over the Ferrari 488 for part 2 of the race. Look at the glow on the brake discs again. We saw this yesterday. The carbon composite brakes on the car working overtime. The brake discs glowing as John Dillon anchored the car up for Hawthorn. We've got 35 minutes left. 4 Ginettas all in a line. Now this is going to be for 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th places. The number 34 car at the head of the train is going to be Harry Yardley Rose, that was scheduled to have started behind the wheel of that car. That will be running 3rd in Group GTA. The 4th car in Group GTA is right behind it, which is Stephen Walton at the wheel of the Make It Happen Racing Ginetta. Then it's a Group GTH Ginetta, which is Craig Wilkins, and just off the back of that is going to be the number 17 Team Hard Ginetta, and that was Russ Lindsay that was scheduled to have started that car. Number 67 is the championship leading car that's at the back of this other little train that we've got, and that is Josh Jackson. The car ahead of him is number 31, which is Ian Duggan. Now Ian Duggan leads Group GTA at this stage, so his train of cars at the front of it so in towards Surtees Corner. And the pit window will be opening in around about 7 minutes time. 7 minutes time the pit window will open. Over the start-finish line, James Guest side by side with Morgan Tilbrook, and that is a battle for Group GTH's contact, and James Guest just avoids going into the gravel there. I think Morgan Tilbrook just caught the edge of the gravel, then there's contact further back as well. Ian Duggan is spinning around, damage to the tail end of his car. He's not the only car that's gone off there as well. There's another car off to driver's left, and that is a car with broken suspension that's stranded, I'm afraid to say, on the run up towards Druids. Now, the number 31 car of Ian Duggan was leading Group GTA at the time as well, so that's our group leader for Group GTA out of the race, I'm afraid to say. Now, as they came over the start-finish line, he was doing battle with Morgan Tilbrook, and I'm afraid to say what was a brand new car at the start of this weekend now looks rather second-hand, I'm afraid to say. So that Mercedes out of the race, the Enduro Motorsport car, and that could possibly bring out a safety car. Wouldn't surprise me, because Ian Duggan's car certainly looked as though the rear suspension was broken on that, and if that's the case, the marshals will not be able to push that car out of harm's way. It will need possibly some assistance from the breakdown crews. So for the moment we are localised cautions, localised yellow flags. Pit window still not scheduled to open for another 6.5 minutes as yet. Number 82, which was James Guess, almost got involved there, didn't he, with that little bit of initial contact between himself and Morgan Tilbrook, but is able to continue in the race and actually gained a place as a result of the offs for the other cars. So 10th position, second in Group GTH. This is the race leader, so out of Surtees, out of Stirling's, and down the straight towards the conclusion of the lap comes our race leader, and yeah, it looks as though safety car is coming out. I'm not surprised, because that car is stricken in the middle of the circuit. Out come the safety car boards on the marshal's posts, so we go full course caution. And this is just again before the pit window opens. So the number 34 car of Harry Yardley Rose, youngest driver in the field, heading down the straight, and under safety car they will all start to bunch up again. So course vehicles just on the way to assist the drivers that were involved. Graham Tilley is just heading along the Cooper Straight, and I think it might be another lap potentially before the safety car gets fully deployed. So we're under safety car conditions, but the safety car will be waiting before it joins the track because it needs to come out ahead of the race leader. So the car of Graham Tilley had already passed the point at which the safety car would be dispatched, so there'll just be probably another lap before we start to get the field properly bunched up behind the safety car. So the top three behind the safety car at this stage. The rest of the field slowly catching up, and with the two cars needing dealing with, I think we're going to have at least another lap or two behind the safety car here. So the pit window without question is going to open at the end of this lap, and if you're bottled up behind the safety car, it might be a wise idea to come in at the earliest possible point. So the driver's still trying to maintain a little bit of tyre and brake temperature. We don't quite see the glowing brake discs on the Ferrari that we were seeing when it was going at full race pace. And one thing it is going to do is it's going to start to bunch up all of these battles again. There is the mid-engined BMW. Sam Allpass is very well-engineered and rare beast. I don't know the history of that car. I did ask a while ago one of the, I think it was Will from Jeff Steele Racing who prepared that car, is that one of the cars that we used to see in things like the Dutch Supercar Challenge, and they weren't sure of the origins of the car, but it is a very cleverly engineered piece of kit, that mid-engined BMW, and it's always nice to see this variety, not just in terms of the manufacturers and the marques and the models that we have in GT Cup, but also, again, you know, we've got a mixture of normally aspirated cars, we've got a mixture of forced induction cars, we've got front-engined cars, we've got mid-engined cars, we've got rear-engined cars, and it's that fantastic variety within the GT Cup Championship that's existed for years and years and years. Myself and the late Jock Simpson, who we sadly lost earlier on this year, and Phil Boland in what's been a difficult year for Butte Motorsport in the GT Cup. And myself and Jock always used to talk about how many different manufacturers were represented. Right, we're starting to see the cars come into the pit lane. I said the pit lane would open, and the vast majority are diving in. So John Dillon comes in to hand over to the pro driver Phil Quaife. Sam Randon comes in to hand over to Ben Claydon. Alan Purbrick is in at the wheel of the Seika to hand over to David Bryce. At pit lane exit ends, the black Ginetta, which is Alex Stevenson, is in to hand over to James Kellett. James, another former very successful Ginetta driver in things like Ginetta Juniors, and then stepping up to things like the G40 Cup and the GT5 Cup, and I don't think we've seen him drive much more other than Ginettas. He was out in a Jaguar earlier on this season. All Team Hard are having to box their drivers together. The Team Hard garage at the bottom, they've got 4 cars to deal with, and all 4 have come in at once. They're 3 Ginettas and the Porsche as well, so that's a busy section for it. Just wondering, is anybody going to get blocked in with that one? The number 67 Ginetta has 20 success seconds in the pit lane. The number 17 Ginetta has no success seconds in the pit lane, so that's sensible parking. The number 34 Ginetta has no success seconds in the pit lane, and the Porsche has success. So they've done the sensible thing there, Team Hard. I've got to say, good thinking by the team. The 2 cars that are on the right-hand side of your screen, the 2 Ginettas, will stop for a shorter period of time than the number 67 car, but they might just have to do a little bit of shuffling to make sure that they can all get out the pit lane. Now, the Seika didn't have any success seconds. I did say it would put that Seika into a very handy position come the pit stop window, and that is the first of the cars to be trundling its way down the pit lane, so watch out for that one in the hands of David Bryce. Let's see how that gets on. It is the first of those that is off pit lane, which all of a sudden, having filled up the best part of a minute and a half ago, has now very quickly started to empty again. Some of the teams and the drivers a little bit frustrated that they had to hold the cars for a bit longer than they needed to, but that's because everybody was filing their way down the pit lane. If you're still stopped in the working lane, you can't just accelerate into the acceleration lane. If there are cars going down the fast lane, you have to wait, otherwise an unsafe release could be considered. Sam Allpass done and dusted. Safety car still out there. Clearing up of the incident still in the process of being done. Now, Graham Tilley's still leading. He did not come into the pits under the safety car, so he still leads. Will Tregurtha has yet to take over that car. Second in the race is the Marcos Mantis that sits behind, which is Jensen Lunn. Second is the Marcos, which is Caroline Gilbert, who didn't come into the pit lane. She will hand that car over to Jensen Lunn, who's only just got out of the sister number 3 car. That was why they couldn't pit the 2 together. And third in the race is James Guess, who's coming in. And fourth in the race is Craig Wilkins. So they've all waited 1 extra lap to come into the pit lane. So down the pit lane come the remaining 4 cars that I don't think have pitted as yet. So Graham Tilley comes to a halt. This car will have to remain stationary for an extra 15 seconds compared to the mandatory 60. Will Tregurtha is ready to dive in the car. Well, a tall old chap is Will Tregurtha. Out comes Graham Tilley, already having had a good day with a win under his belt in the sprint race. Will about to jump in the car. No real rush as well. They get 60 seconds plus the 15 success seconds, so 75 seconds to do the driver change, to get Will Tregurtha belted into the car, ensure that if it's got a window net, the window net is up, but more importantly, ensure that Will Tregurtha is plugged into the pit car radio as well, so they can communicate with him as the race wears on as to what he needs to do. Does he need to push? Can he ease off? We'll have to wait and see. So now the race leading car is going to be the Saker. So that is the car that is behind the safety car in the hands of David Bryce. And what a story it would be if that Saker could win. We have seen it competing sporadically in GT Cup for several seasons now. It's a car which, when it goes well, but it has on occasions let the drivers down. And for the pairing of Alan Purbrick and David Bryce, it would be a great end to the weekend if they could somehow walk away with a victory. We'll have to wait and see. So erstwhile race leader back on its way out, and he's now going to rejoin. So the Nissan, now in the hands of Will Tregurtha, rejoins the race. The car of Jensen Lund, the number 99 car, now is also back out on circuit, and they will have to now come back round and try and join back on with the tail end of this train. I think maybe stopping that lap later is not going to have done them a great deal of good, potentially. We'll have to wait and see as to what the order looks like. The lights are still on the safety car. Not sure how much clearing up there needs to be done still where the incident occurred, but there's no sign as yet that the safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap. So 20 minutes to go of the scheduled 50. We still remain under full course caution here at Brands Hatch in our final race of the weekend for the GT Cup Championship, which will head to Donington Park in 2 weeks' time for the final 4 races of the 2020 season. Same format as ever: a sprint race and an endurance race on the Saturday, a sprint race and an endurance race on the Sunday, and that will then wrap up the GT Cup Championship season for 2020, and we will crown our various group champions, as they are called, and of course our overall champion when we look at the points tally in each one of the groups and see as to who has gained the most points, and they will be then the overall champion for the year. Lights are on the safety car, but it's peeling its way into the pit lane, so we are going to get the race underway. And as we then get the race back underway, the Saker accelerates over the start finish line in the hands of David Bryce. We go racing once more at Brands Hatch, and it is the Saker that leads. Now remember, the way the morning started for the Saker was that it lost all of its qualification times because of an oversight from the team and the drivers. And well, at the moment, from misfortune at the beginning of the day, fortune has been shining on them in this one, because they are now leading this race. Number 212, which is Chris Hart, gaining a position there, very brave on the brakes, heading up towards the braking area for Druids, now looking to try and unpick Simon Orange, the number 67 Ginetta that is running in Group GTA. There's another Group GTA car that's behind it, and it looks like Chris Hart is going to try and squeeze his way through, as he knows Simon Orange hugely keen to close the door, and just gets the door closed to hang on to the position. And that could be important for the drivers that lead the championship. The number 67 car, Simon Orange and Josh Jackson, are the championship leaders coming into this one. There goes Ben Claydon. That's another car that's right at the sharp end of the championship. That's the Group GTB leading car when it was in the hands of Sam Randon. Is it going to continue to lead the group, though, as the race wears on? Now, what we've got here is lots of overtaking. Some of the quicker cars are trying to feed their way back up through the order, because the train of cars behind the safety car was a little bit, well, it wasn't muddled, it was just meaning that we did end up with some of the quicker cars towards the back because of when they pitted. I think the Group GTB lead has changed as well. I think Tom Barrow at the wheel of the Saxon Motorsport BMW has got through and ahead of the Porsche, so that should, I think, put that car potentially up to second in the group. Actually, leading Group GTB will still be the number 3 Marcos. Yes, it is. Yeah, over the start finish line comes the Marcos. That will be leading the group. Here comes Graham Tilley carving his way up through the order. Sorry, here comes Will Tregurtha carving his way up through the order. Now that he's taken over that car, it's now up into 8th position, and we'll still, I'm sure, keep gaining places, but we've still got some of those cars pitted a lap later, trying to work their way through the order. Will Tregurtha up the inside of Tom Barrow, gains another place. The next of the cars he's going to want to try and work his way past is former champion Chris Murphy at the wheel of the Whitebridge Motorsport Aston Martin, sporting its new livery for this weekend. 2 more places gained for Will Tregurtha, so that will now put him up into 5th position. The next of the cars he's going to want to try and hunt down will be the number 3 car, which for part 2 of the race is in the hands of Warren Gilbert. So there goes our former champion Chris Murphy, won the championship with Adam Hadfield. Will Tregurtha bouncing off the curbs, gaining more places. He's about to now work his way past Warren Gilbert's Marcos Mantis. Through goes the Nissan, so that's now up into 4th place for Will Tregurtha at the wheel of this ex-RJN car. Bob Neville and the team having built these cars for European racing and British GT, which we saw them competing over the years, but in the hands of Graham Tilley, who acquired this car just over 12 months ago now. It's been always great to see it out in the GT Cup Championship, and after what, as we say, has been a troubled year, it'd be great to see them maybe finish it on a high with a double win. Graham Tilley having handed the car over to Will Tregurtha. Will pops in the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 29.881, and that was through traffic as well, so that was a quick lap for Will Tregurtha. 14 minutes of the race to go. Ben Claydon under pressure. A car that was leading Group GTB in the early stages, having dropped down through the order. One of the Group GTA Ginettas goes through, which is Chris Hart, who has got through and past the Porsche. The champions from last year, which is Steve Ruston behind the wheel of the McLaren, have got the potential champions from this year right behind. The number 67 car of Simon Orange cheeks out from behind to try and work his way through. The race leader is under pressure as well now. David Bryce at the wheel of the Saker, coming under pressure from Phil Quaife. Now it's a Group GTB car and a Group GTC car, 1st and 2nd place, so arguably the Ferrari should be able to outgun the potentially either lesser powered or less developed Saker, but in the hands of David Bryce, he's going to want to try and hang on to the lead of the race. You can see the glowing brake discs again on Phil Quaife's car as the Ferrari tries to grab the lead of the race. We've already seen a win in the pit stop race yesterday for the pairing of John Dillon and Phil Quaife, and could well see them grab another win here as well. Sam Allpass trying to attack and defend at the same time. He's got number 67, which is Simon Orange, right behind him. The Group GTO leading BMW, with the 3rd place Group GTA car behind. But for David Bryce, Saker still continues to lead the race. Nice and neat and tidy. Out of Druids, down in towards the braking area for the left-hander at Graham Hill Bend. The Subaru engine Saker. The Ferrari 488 that runs to European Challenge specification in the hands of Phil Quaife, sitting there in 2nd position. And is it now coming out of this corner where the Ferrari might get the run on the Saker? And all of the time closing in is Will Tregurtha, who has set another new fastest lap of the race last time through, 1 minute 27.426. So for the lead of the race, Phil Quaife needs to get on with this quickly here. Top 3 cars, all in different groups as well. Group GTB leading, Group GTC 2nd, Group GT3 3rd, and they're all the top 3 all together down the short straight heading up towards Westfield Corner. So it's building to a crescendo, this final race of the weekend. David Bryce is going to have to work overtime to keep Phil Quaife behind. Phil Quaife is going to have to watch his mirrors, whilst the GT3 specification Nissan in the hands of Will Tregurtha is all of the time beginning to close in as well. So out of Surtees, down the straight that brings them up towards the conclusion of the lap. David Bryce doing a good job of keeping the aspirations of Phil Quaife and the Ferrari at bay all of the time, whilst Will Tregurtha is just closing in a little bit more. It looks as though the rain's starting to fall again as well, to add some more spice into the mix as well, as if we didn't need some more action in this one. Phil Quaife is now looking for the lead of the race. David Bryce doesn't quite grab the apex. Phil Quaife gets a little bit of a wiggle midway through what is Paddock Hill Bend, and now as they head up towards the braking area for Druids, the top 3 are absolutely together. The rain is starting to fall. They are all on slick tyres. There are 11 minutes to go. The sun is still shining again, bizarrely. It's a bit like we had in one of the support races earlier on for this one, but it's still Alan Purbeck, who has vacated this car, handing it over to David Bryce. It's David Bryce that still continues to lead the race. The top 3 absolutely together, and as they start to propel themselves downhill and up towards what is Hawthorn. Is he going to close the door? No, I think Phil Quaife is going to try and go through. No, the Ferrari's not quite going to do it, so it's still the same order. David Bryce, Phil Quaife, and then Will Tregurtha, all of them together. The few spits of rain that were falling seem to have stopped again, bizarrely. And now Will Tregurtha is looking for second place on Phil Quaife. Through goes Will Tregurtha. He picks up second position. Phil Quaife drops down to third, but still leads the group. It still leads Group GTC, that Ferrari, even though it's now dropped down to the final podium spot. You can see just how much those brake discs glow on that car. Fantastic sight it makes. For David Bryce, I do think that the lead of the race is short-lived from him, and that's not doing him a disservice. It's just the fact that Will Tregurtha is a very, very quick young man, and the Nissan in a straight line should be able to outgun the Seika. Indeed, yep, through it goes. The GT3 spec car, far more developed aerodynamics with all of its dive planes and everything else as well, goes through to grab the lead of the race. So Tregurtha leads, David Bryce second, Phil Quaife third at this stage, and all of them are still in separate groups. GT3 car leads, Group GTB car second, Group GTC car is there in third position. The other group leaders that we've got down in sixth position is going to be Chris Hart. He leads Group GTA at the wheel of the Make It Happen Racing Ginetta. Chris Murphy, the former champion, now has picked up the lead in Group GTH at the wheel of the number 72 Aston Martin, and Group GTO is being secured by Sam Allpass at the wheel of the BMW. So those are our group leaders at this stage, with now less than 10 minutes to go, and it's taking the lead of the race. Will Tregurtha has pulled away from Phil Quaife, who is now up into second position at the expense of David Bryce, who I thought might struggle to hang on to the lead of the race. And so that's not doing him a disservice at all. It's just that that car didn't have any success seconds to serve. The cars that gone through have, and David Bryce at the wheel of a Group GTB car was probably always going to get outgunned by the Group GTC and certainly by the Group GT3 cars. Look at this little fight. Sam Allpass fighting away with what will be Simon Orange, then Craig Wilkins, followed by Steve Rushton, and then off the back of Steve Rushton is going to be the next of the cars, which is going to be the number 17 car, which will now be in the hands of Patrick Collins. So this is 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th and 14th places all together. That's dropping to the tail end of that train now is the car that won the championship last year, Steve Rushton. So great little fight, and they're all catching the next of the cars up the road as well, which is the Group GTH leader, which is Chris Murphy. So the battles are beginning to build again now. So Chris Murphy in ninth, coming under pressure from Sam Allpass. Chris Murphy wants to try and hang on to the place if he can, because if Sam Allpass at the wheel of the BMW gets through, then the next car behind him would be the Ginetta, which is James Guess, who is second in Group GTH. Now I think the flame-spitting BMW in a straight line will be quicker than the Aston Martin. He'll certainly pull away from James Guess's Ginetta, who is now under attack from the number 67 Ginetta of Simon Orange. That's not for group position, because that's a Group GTH Ginetta ahead of a Group GTA car. But look at this queue of cars now, round through Paddock Hill Bend. Chris Murphy, Sam Allpass, James Guest, Simon Orange, Craig Wilkins, Steve Rushton back ahead of the next of the cars, which is Patrick Collins. So 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th places all together. James Guest coming under attack again in the braking area down towards Graham Hill Bend. Simon Orange trying to unpick the number 82 Feathers Motorsport Ginetta. And can the Team Hard car go through this time at Surtees Corner? He's looking to try and get up the inside, but James Guest sweeps across the nose, hangs on to the place. Great stuff. 7 minutes to go. Will Tregurtha leading. John Dillon having handed over to Phil Quaife in second place. Chris Murphy has had little choice but to let the much more powerful BMW through and past, so that means Sam Allpass now moves up into 9th position. Chris Murphy drops down into 10th. I might lose the lead of Group GTH here. In fact, he does, yeah. The Aston Martin offline at Westfield Corner. Through goes James Guess, and now James Guess, the number 82 Ginetta, picks up the lead of Group GTH. Maybe there's a problem for Chris Murphy because he's fallen from the front of that train to the back of that train, I'm afraid. A great fight it still is. Out of the left-hander at Stirling's, down the straight and up towards the conclusion of the lap, they all thread their way. Sam Allpass at the front of the queue is a Group GTO car. The car that's second in the queue is a Group GTH car. The car that's third in the queue is Simon Orange. He runs in Group GTA, but is just about to be unpicked by Steve Rushton, who is now going to go through at the wheel of the McLaren and move ahead of the Ginetta. He might just run wide though and lose the place again on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend. Can't quite tell as they head in towards a braking area for Druids, and I think he might have done. He might have gained the place on the way in. And has he lost it again on the way out? Yes, he has, unfortunately. Yes, so through has gone the Group GTA Ginetta once more of Simon Orange. So Olpas, Guess, Rushton, Orange, then Wilkins, and then off the back of that is the number 17 Team Hard Ginetta, which is Patrick Collins, the gunmetal grey and purple car. But all of them still fighting away for 9th through to what will be 14th positions with 5 minutes of the race to go. Again, Steve Ruston side by side with Simon Orange, and once more the McLaren goes through on pure pace down the straights. The McLaren goes through, a little bit slower coming out of the corner though, which offers up a glimmer of hope maybe for the championship leading number 67 Ginetta to go through. But even if it goes through, it actually doesn't affect the group positions, so no more championship points are being accumulated even if these two cars swap positions. And Steve Ruston was a little bit wide there, 2 wheels on the grass through Sheen, back through goes Simon Orange. So again they have swapped positions. Back down to 12th goes the McLaren, back up to 11th goes the Ginetta. So through the right-hander at Clearways and Clark Curve, 4.5 minutes remaining on the clock. Now in a straight line we know that the McLaren is strong, so he will pull away from the number 17 car of Patrick Collins behind. Should be able to close in a little bit more on the car of Simon Orange, but runs out of start-finish line really and has to dive on the brakes. There's Patrick Collins, who's at the back of this little train of cars. Now this is a fight that is between two Group GTB cars at this stage. The car of Ben Claydon, who is running down in 8th position, fighting away with the car that's a lap adrift of it, which is the number 99 car that's now been taken over by Jensen Lund for part 2 of the race. The Porsche is currently running 8th place and 4th in its respective group, but the Marcos ahead is much further down through the order. So there goes what is still the championship leading car. So the number 67 Ginetta hasn't quite had the results today in its respective group that it wanted. It runs 3rd in Group GTA at this stage. Porsche and the Ginetta together. There is a lap between the pair of them. Ben Claydon up the inside of the number 99 car of Jensen Lund. And he'll be hugely keen, will Ben Claydon, to try and keep pushing hard, because Sam Olpas at the wheel of that BMW, the white BMW, is having a fantastic race. The mid-engined car is its group leader, Group GTO, but it's now caught up with the Porsche ahead, so there's still the Marcos between the pair of them, but before too much longer we should have the battle on for what will be 8th and 9th positions. James Guess is coming under pressure, and Simon Orange on the run up towards Paddock Hill Bend as well, so it doesn't matter where you look, there are cars that are busy fighting away. It's been a great end to the weekend here at Brands Hatch for the GT Cup Championship, and we've still got 2.5 minutes of this hard racing to come. The battered nose cone of James Guess's car telling you how much the fights have been brewing throughout the course of this race. He still as yet is managing to keep Simon Orange at the wheel of the championship leading Ginetta behind. Through Graham Hill Bend they will thread their way, and Sam Olpas is now also coming back under pressure from the Marcos. He got through and ahead of it, but Jensen Lund is hugely keen to try and return the favour. It's not full position, there's a lap between the pair of them, but Sam Olpas is surely going to try and outgun that Marcos, which isn't slow in a straight line. The Marcos is not a slow car in the straight line. Who's got the extra grunt? The GTO car, just, I think, the BMW hanging on to it. So still at the tail end of this queue, just having dropped away again over the course of the last few laps, is Patrick Collins. So running 4th in Group J GTA and what is 13th position overall. Now through the right-hander at Sheen Curve, James Guess at the wheel of number 32 now needs to try and thread his way through and past the number 99 Marcos, because as you say, that is a lap adrift of the queuing pack that sits behind. Blue flags waving to forewarn the Marcos that it needs to ideally move out of harm's way, but in a straight line it's quicker than the Ginetta. It's through the corners where the Ginetta has the advantage, and James Guess starts to slow again. More blue flags being shown, whilst Wiltra Goether's trying to thread his way through and past them all as well. So Wiltra Goether in the mix as well. We've got lapped cars trying to lap cars whilst they're being lapped at this stage. So onto what should now be the final lap of the race comes Wiltra Goether. Will thread his way past the number 82 car of James Guess. So that is James in 10th position, now off the lead lap of the race. But for Will Tregurtha, since taking over this car from Graham Tilley, he has been able to build an advantage now of 10.5 seconds between himself and the Phil Quaife driven Ferrari. There's still more work to be done though on this final lap of the race for Will Tregurtha, though. There's still a bit more traffic that he'll need to deal with. So out of the left-hander at Surtees, Will Tregurtha looking to try and get past the next of the two cars up the road. Now these two are fighting for position. This is 8th and 9th place, which is Ben Claydon fighting away with Sam Allpass. They're both in different groups. Up the inside of Sam Allpass goes Will Tregurtha. Then he just needs to deal with the Porsche of Ben Claydon, who's in his first season of motorsport, and Will Tregurtha very decisively carves his way through and past that, so that drops them off the lead lap of the race. Ben Claydon then conscious that he needs to close the door on Sam Allpass, because they are now going to be heading towards the checkered flag, because the clock has ticked to 0, and after a difficult start to the weekend for Graham Tilley, himself and Will Tregurtha are going to come away with a win in the final race of the weekend, and the second win today for the Nissan. Graham Tilley driving solo in the sprint race, but joined by Will Tregurtha, comes through to grab the checkered flag and claim the final win in the GT Cup Championship here this weekend. So from having secured his first win of the season earlier on, and that's the championship leading car, I'm afraid to say, having had a spin. Now that was at Sheen Curve, the number 67 car. Simon Orange was driving and was involved in that great battle, but that was the car that was leading the championship overall, not just Group GTA, but was leading the championship overall, and had had such a consistent and stunning season really. And well, it looks as though potentially, if that car is beached in the gravel and has damage, it's going nowhere. That car has failed to finish a race so far this year, and well, as we leave Brands Hatch, we'll be heading towards the final round of the championship, and that could have a huge impact on what the championship scores look like as we head towards Donington Park. There are still squabbles going on circuit as well, and this is for 4th and 5th position, and for what is the lead car behind, it is going to be a win in Group GTA, because it's caught up with the Marcus Mantis towards the tail end, but that Marcus Mantis runs in Group GTB, so the Group GTA win will go the way of the number 212 Ginetta of Simon Walton and Chris Hart, but they really closed up on Warren Gilbert in the Marcus Mantis towards the end of that lap. But the Mantis comes home finishing 4th, 2nd in its group, the Ginetta behind 5th, but wins Group GTA. So an amazing weekend of racing here at the GT Cup Championship for the final race of the weekend. That's confirmed the results then. It's a win for Graham Tilley and Will Tregurtha. In 2nd place, but the winning Group GTC, it's John Dillon and Phil Quaife. And 3rd in the winning Group GTB is Alan Purbreck and David Bryce at the wheel of the Saker. 4th position was Warren Gilbert and Jensen Lund. 5th place is the Group GTA winning car, which was Stephen Walton who started, and Chris Hart who brought it towards the checkered flag. And completing the top 6 was Tom Barrow. In 7th place, it was Callum Jenkins and Harry Yardley-Rose. 8th place goes the way of Ben Claydon and Sam Randon, and completing the top 9, it was a Group GTO win for Sam Allpass. The top 10 was completed by James Guess, who also claimed top honours in Group GTH. 11th place, Steve Ruston and John Whitehouse. 12th position was where we saw the number 17 car of Russ Lindsay and Patrick Collins. 13th place was Craig Wilkins. 14th was Chris Murphy, and 15th position was Alex Stevenson and James Kellett. 16th in the end for the car that was leading the championship standings, but had problems on the final lap for Josh Jackson and Jason Orange, and they ultimately were not able to come through and take the checkered flag, but should be classified still in 16th position and 5th in class. The last of the cars to take the checkered flag was Charlotte Gilbert and Jensen Lund. Problems and retirements for Morgan Tilbrook and Marcus Clutton. Also a damage and an incident that took out the number 31 car as well, which was Dan Morris and Ian Duggan. Dan not getting to drive, Ian was involved in that incident, and problems from the very start, unfortunately, for the number 77 Lamborghini Huracan of father and son pairing, Jim and Glyn Geddy. So that is it for Brands Hatch and the GT Cup Championship. We've got more racing coming up though. In just 2 weeks' time, we'll be at Donington Park in the East Midlands for our championship finale and to crown the 2020 champions. So from us all here at Brands Hatch, thank you for joining us. Hope you've enjoyed the racing from the GT Cup Championship. We will see you in 2 weeks' time at Donington Park.